the first female student union government of the greatest university on the planet Earth, University of Jos, NOB, that I had the privilege to be. There are only 2 universities in Nigeria, but I don't want to go into that controversy. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me confess that I did not know who invited me until this morning, because I haven't met him. I was only being called on phone. And so I wondered what informed the decision that I should be the one to speak on the role of judiciary in Nigerians' democratic sustainability. So when I got his WhatsApp message on the 16th of July, I was tempted to decline, because there is nothing I'm going to say or that I've said in this keynote address that I have not said it before, either in court or on my Twitter or on my Facebook page, or there is nothing I'm going to say that all of us seated here do not know. We know it, but we are unable to practice it for reasons that I cannot say why. The Nigerian politicians know with profound respect, and the keynote address is of 46 pages. I have sent it forward. So I'm going to speak to it because you will not allow me to read it. But I'm going to speak truth because only truth can make us free. And until Nigeria embraces what is called truth and avoid engaging in what appears to be giving baptismal name of wrong to right, our democracy will suffer a shipwreck. So I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity to speak to us. What's democracy? According to Abraham Lincoln, say democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. But in my understanding of Nigerian brand of democracy, democracy in Nigeria is government for the selected, of the selected, and for the selected. And so, we all know, and including the IPAC, that we do not practice what is called democracy in Nigeria. Because in real democracy, sovereignty belongs to the people. The people decide who is to be their president, who is to be their councillor, who is to be their governor, and there are no money bags that determine that Sam Amadi, who is qualified, is not qualified. I refer you to the case of Amechi versus INEC, where the Supreme Court of Nigeria did the unusual to save democracy. Amechi won primary, and in the course of time, the political juggernauts and godfathers of Nigerian politics did not believe that the man would dance to their tune. And so his nomination, we were told, had K-leg. And so he was substituted with a man who did not participate in primary election. And so the man went to court. And the question was, having won in the court, what remedy was available to Amechi, having not participated in all stages of election? And the Supreme Court of Nigeria, by the judgment delivered by His Lordship, Honorable Justice George Ogutade JSC, as he then was, has to come down heavily to teach Nigerian politicians lesson of civility by deciding that what remedy does it lie in declaring that it is Amechi that won the primary. And so they invented an ingenuity in jurisprudential soundness to say that when you look at the ballot papers upon which Omeya was declared, the logo on the ballot paper belongs to PDP. And so, for the very first time in Nigerian history, Amechi became governor without going through the rudiments of election. And so, and the Supreme Court relied on the case from UK decided by Lord Denny. That what is the argument on the other side? That this has not been done before. Must it be that because, okay, so because things has not been done before, should it not be done again? And so they decided to install Amechi as governor. So I am looking at this from the perspectives of the contributions of Nigerian judiciary to sustainability of democracy. And so when Amechi decision was given, there was a little bit of sanity in the political sense of Nigerian politicians. Mark you, I'm not a politician. And I'm happy all of you that are here are leaders of political parties. You won't find my name on your register. So I'm not speaking like a politician. I'm talking and I'm speaking to you this morning as a lawyer and a professor, the national legal advisor of APC knows I'm not a politician. Also, I'm a lawyer. And I'm a lawyer, and I will be. So, Amechi became governor. Second good point in favor of Nigerian judiciary is Inakoju versus Adeleke. And I'm sure we all know what Nigerian politicians were doing in removing governors that were elected or selected, whichever is the case. How the governors were being removed, even in a brothel. And mark you know, we all know, and with profound apologies to people in the National or State Houses of Assembly, I think there is no independence of institution in Nigeria. There is what I call executive terrorism and domineering in the landscape of Nigerian politics. So much so that every other one, other than the executive, they are always a house help in the governance of Nigerian system, including our security agencies, unfortunately. So the second other point in favor of judiciary is the case of Inakoji versus Adeleke, where Supreme Court stamped its authority and taught politicians the sense of decency of a procedural steps of impeachment. You recall that by the provisions of Section 180 also of the Constitution, subsection 10 thereabout, impeachment is not justiciable. But the Supreme Court of Nigeria, as it then was, went to town and said before you can take umbrage or advantage of the ouster clause in subsection 10 of the Constitution, Parliament must be seen to have followed religiously the procedural steps set out in section 1, subsection 1 to 9. Otherwise, they will be held accountable. And so, in Nakoju Adeleke, Supreme Court quashed the impeachment of the governor. The same thing with Appion and so on and so forth. Those are good golden days of how Nigerian judiciary had come in aid of sustainability of democracy in Nigeria. But like the national chairman of IPAC rightly pointed out, there is a diminishing returns of Nigerian interests in whether or not our judiciary has capacity as of today to do justice. And that's where, in my humble view, both the legal profession and the judiciary appears to be, with profound respect, the trouble of democracy in Nigeria. My Lord Justice Nikki Toby was of the view in Buhari versus INEC when he says that politicians and judicial officers are two poles apart. They are not in the same honeymoon to be in the same room. Why? Because, and I'm happy that all of you that are here are politicians. The attributes of politicians is partiality. Politicians are very partial. And indeed, anything that gives them opportunity to be in power, they click onto it, including moral conduct. But the attributes of judicial officers and legal profession is not that of partiality, it's impartiality. We are the only institutions that have code of conduct. And our code of conduct is rooted in morality. While immorality are part of the attributes of politicians. The Supreme Court of Nigeria is the alpha and omega of the courts of the land. Its decision can make or mar our democratic journey. Unfortunately, with profound respect, as I said, as of today, can we in all honesty say that our judiciary are giving us judgments that contain justice, particularly in electoral jurisprudence? You know the answer. I know the answer. And you know it. You are scared of hearing it. But I will tell you that today we seem to have overplayed technicality at the expense of substantial justice. And so facts of electoral frauds, of stealing of mandates, facts of helicopter being used to install governors, facts of ballot box snatching, facts of ballot box stuffing are no longer what matters. What matters is who wins. And until our judiciary and the legal profession begins to retrace their steps in installing those who violated the sovereignty of the people, and we are holding them accountable, Nigerian democracy may begin to think about using AK-47 as weapon of installation of leadership. And I think we are gradually getting to that stage. Many decisions of our courts in electoral matters have elevated rules of court far more superior and supreme, to the extent that the trials in election petition cases, roadblocks mixed with concrete made of iron, have effectively been erected on the ways of proof in election matter. Yet we retain the right to file election petitions. Unfortunately, Nigerians are worried and about the judgments coming out of our election petition. That is why judgments coming out of our court in election matters are being revoted and ignored by those who are bound to obey them. People are revolting because they see no justice and good logic in these judgments. People know that such decisions are delivered against all known facts, which facts, even when presented, are overlooked under arid legal technicalities of jargon called burden of proof. We all know how we have chosen. I think I will need to sit down because I have issues with my leg. We have chosen how to sit under the hybrid legal technicalities. Now, today, there is a principle in Nigeria now called go to court. And the reason is very simple. Win at all costs, you will be given judicial stamp of authority. Because it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a man or a woman denied of opportunity of leading his people to get justice in our courts today. That is why, with profound respect to the politicians gathered here, election in Nigeria has assumed the do or die affairs. Just go and win. I think the kind of electoral judgment from our court, which in most cases are devoid of justice, has made many people to lose hope in the potential of good and purpose of justice and democracy in Nigeria. Any justice that does not produce proportional fairness and quality justice to the vast majority of the people in the society cannot be described as justice. In any society where only the very few enjoyed arid-colored quick justice dished out by those who are paid to give pure, unadulterated justice cannot enjoy peace. And I'm sure that's why peace is eluding us. There are many laws in Nigeria to give pure, unadulterated electoral justice to Nigerian people. But these laws are being administered in most cases with very bad motive. As it is anything, the hope of Nigeria in Nigerian judiciary appears to be dwindling in geometrical proportion. Many people are openly expressing frustration that there is nothing good that will come out of the judiciary again. As a strong believer in the integrity and impartiality of our judicial institution, I still have hope that our judiciary are not deaf and dumb to appreciate the need to ensure that the right things are done. The facts of rascality of our political actors are too notorious for the judiciary to ignore it, as is being presently done. The duty of the judiciary is to hold wrongdoers and evildoers accountable. But where evildoers and wrongdoers are celebrated and installed, then there is no accountability. And that is why, with profound respect to my national chairman and the leaders that are here, Nigerian politicians are far too removed from the people. And that is the reason the judiciary was given responsibility to hold you accountable. But unfortunately, it appears that if you can't beat them, you must join them. Should we join them in the legal profession? I do not think so. Our electoral jurisprudence needs to be looked into, and I must commend Parliament because they done a lot. For instance, beavers has been introduced. Accreditation is to be done by beavers. But who brings the beavers to court? How will the beavers be opened and demonstrated? Nigerian Supreme Court said you must produce beavers and demonstrate it. I commend them because beaver is an electronic device. You do not need polling unit by polling unit agents to come and show you what is stored in the beavers. But how has our court interpreted even this technological innovation? They have been jettisoned in place of analog jurisprudential injustice to the extent now that Nigerian politicians bypass beavers free of charge and get an institution charged with responsibility of conducting election called INEC to announce the results. And once INEC has announced the results, thank you. Once INEC has announced the results. Yes, once INEC has announced the results, then you have an uphill task to overturn it. Why? You know it. You block agents. You don't want witnesses to come to court. Witnesses are waylaid. I ask questions. Are Nigerian politicians actually ready for democracy? They are not. Because Nigerian politicians are not interested in democratic principle. They are interested, and I have said, and let me say it here without any fear of contradiction, that there is no difference between all the Nigerian political parties. The only difference is in opportunity. Once upon a time was a political party called APC outside of power, and PDP was a bad political party. They sang songs of their purity and piousness, how they would do what they needed to do in less than 6 months. Nigeria will be a rado, everything will be fine. Then the opportunity came. Now we are making excuses, and there is virtually no one, except very few, and with profound respect and apologies to the national chairman of APC, that has never been a PDP. And so when I see Nigerian leaders passing bulk that it is the past government, I do not see any reason why you should say so, because there is nobody in the present government that has never been part and parcel of the government that put us in this program. They all are there, either in the Senate or in the House of Representatives. So my submission to us therefore this morning is that for politicians in Nigeria to be held accountable, Nigerian judicial officers and legal practitioners must avoid mingling with politicians. And that's what my Lord Justice Nikitobi said in General Muhammadu Buhari versus INEC. His Lordship says, quote, I see from Exhibit PE 234 the need for Nigerian judges to maintain a very big distance from politics and politicians. Our constitution forbids any mingling. As judges, we must obey the constitution. The two professions do not meet. I will never meet at all in democracy, in our democracy, in the discharge of their functions. While politics is a profession, as a profession is fully and totally based on partiality, most of times judgeship is a profession fully and totally based on impartiality. The opposite of partiality, bias, is the trademark of politicians. Non-bias is the trademark of judges. That again creates a scenario of superlative in the realm of dichotomy. Therefore, the expression politician and judge are opposite, so to say, in their functional contexts, though not in their ordinary dictionary meaning. They are waters never meet, just like River Niger and River Benue met in Lokoja, a state that I have the misfortune to come from. If they ever met, the victim will be democracy. Yes, and the victim is now democracy. And I will show you why the victim is now democracy. Because when there is a mixture of politicians and judges to determine electoral dispute before it is determined, democracy will suffer a shipwreck. And we must go back to the demarcation between partiality and impartiality. And so, what is the role of, therefore, of Nigerian judiciary for democratic sustainability? Judges must be bold. Judiciary must maintain a far distance from politicians. Politicians must leave the judiciary alone, from recruitment to appointments to recommendations to everything. And I love what my Lord Honorable Justice Amina Ogi said. We all watch it. The only hope we have in Nigeria is the legal profession. But if the legal profession allows itself to be castrated and misused, we will go back to what I call the state of nature, where life will become shortish, brutish, and nasty, and there will be no place for industry. I submit to us that no court worth its salt should approve of barbaric conduct of election that produce a winner through the barrel of the gun or snatching of ballot papers. Our electoral act forbids it. Our constitution forbids it. There is no provisions for dual membership of political party in Nigeria, but our politicians are guilty of it. Some are in APC and PDP combined, and there is no internal discipline in our political party. That's why at the beginning of this lecture I said I will be blunt, and I will remain to be so, because the freedom we are enjoying, with profound respect to distinguished officers sitting here, we will not enjoy it under military, because the military obeyed the last command. But in democracy, I can challenge His Excellency Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje in argument, in logicality. But unfortunately, even Nigerian politics is not based on ideas. And that is why some of us are far from it. If you don't have the capacity to do evil, you cannot be a good politician. I am not saying that all politicians are evil. Far from it. But if infinitesimal number of you are good, the vast majority that find their way to power have underlying factors in promoting what is evil. That is why those who don't want to be accountable can pay to some persons to go and disrupt a peaceful protest to bring our grievances to the government ears. You can't be far removed from the people and claiming that you are in a democratic setup. I submit to us, therefore, that the vein of our sustainability of democracy, as propounded by Nigerian Judiciary as of today, is the blind clinging up to technicalities to the death. And until we do what in 2027, may I zoom a free for all dimensions, and join me to say, God forbid. God will only forbid when you and I decide to hold these politicians accountable. When you collect a bag of salt because of hunger to vote a politician, or to cast your paper for a politician that has failed, you are part of Nigerian problem. And let me say this with profound respect, that there is no difference between the leadership of Nigeria and the followership. Both the leaders and the followers have the same common denominator: no humanity. There is no morality. In those days when I was growing up in my father's compound, you don't come home with one kobo without your parents questioning it. But today, when a young man of no means acquires a limousine, we celebrate it. So in a society where we take ownership of wrong and celebrate them with national honors and chieftaincy titles, how do you expect development in such a society? That is why we are where we are. And that is why we have penetrated our judicial institution that is supposed to have immaculate character in dishing out justice undiluted to Nigerian people. The kind of colored justice we have now are rooted in so many theories. First theory is what they call sui generis, a class of its own. Sui generis as a principles of law is being propounded with profound respect to our judicial officers in the most unjust manner to install bad people in power. When you propound sui generis in a class of its own, then why do you now put a lot of roadblocks? For instance, Parliament has decided in Section 137 of the Electoral Act 2002 to avoid the principles of demonstration of documents. By the way, what is demonstration of documents? The official lingua franca of Nigerian court is English language. And we were told, Onoja, you are here, Amadi, you are here, that document speaks for itself. Yet we tender documents in court. Our court says you should come and demonstrate it. In what language? Is it in Fufunde, in Hausa, in Igbo? On what language? Rep Isalo Quito. What you can see is there. The matter speaks for itself. Why should you now ask lawyer to come and demonstrate a document that you can see that there is fraud on the face of it, that you did not speak to it, that is a fraud? We must be serious. If we are not serious, and I will use the word of their lordships in Oglem versus INEC, because it's not my word. When we begin to let people out of the seat of justice with roadblock mixed with concrete, and you think that you are going home happy, when the effect comes, you will suffer for it. For instance, why do we now demand that a supreme witness, a witness that is not at your command, I need a document from this great officer's office, and I then need to front load a witness statement on oath together with my petition within 21 days? The bureaucracy in the civil service, even in the next 4 years, four months, you will not get the officer that will have the permission to write that witness statement on oath. The moment our court began to say that a front-loaded witness statement on oath, a supreme witness must have a front-loaded statement on oath, that put an end to the viability of any election petition. And that is why our politicians are now running helter-skelter to meet INEC officials to announce them. And once they are announced, they remain there gidigba. Nobody is accountable. Because a man who did not have your permission to enter your house cannot show you respect in your bedroom. He can go there and defecate and do whatever he likes. Another 4 years, he goes back home and does what he needs to do. And so my submission to us, therefore, is that the Supreme Court and all our courts must be very wary of roadblocks in electoral justice if we are not going to have a boomerang effect of those decisions that are not rooted in logic, they are not rooted in jurisprudential soundness, but they are what appears to me, with profound respect, to be a political decision of king does no wrong. King does no wrong is a concept in those days, but with the Republican Constitution, our Constitution, Nigerian kings can be brought to book. I therefore submit to us this morning that until we allow facts to be the fountain of proof in the court, rather than the arid technicalities of evidence and how it should be produced. Because we were told, and Sam Amadi, you are here, that the stolen evidence is relevant. If you steal evidence and it's relevant, it can be used by a court. But today, evidence brought to court by court means, by court order, which is called subpoena, is being rejected on the technicalities that you have no front-loaded statements. Meanwhile, I submit to us, and I ask you to go home and read paragraph 41, subparagraph 1, 5, and 6 of the first schedule to the Electoral Act, subordinated the reception of evidence to a written law, and the law that guides evidence in Nigerian court is the Evidence Act, a substantive law made by Parliament. And so where there is a head-on collision between beetle and trailer, who should suffer shipwreck? It should be beetle. I describe in profound respect rules of court as beetle, while substantive law is what I call the trailer of our law. But today, our court chose beetle as more powerful over than trailer that can carry more load. And so, their lordships won. And I will read this one. In a civil action, if parties or their counsel cannot take the trouble to get the application right, the court show them no mercy. But in an election petition, we are not concerned with the interests and claims of private individuals. It has been alleged that the election in the constituency was not properly conducted. That is a matter in which the interest of the community is seriously concerned, and in which public interest completely overshadow the interest of the individuals involved. It is necessary that the allegation of impropriety in the conduct of election be inquired into and pronounced upon judicially, and no technicalities can be allowed to stand in the way of that inquiry. That's what their lordship said in Oglem versus INEC 2008. And I'm speaking about what their lordships of the Court of Appeal said 2008 under our current democracy. In this paper, I trace the history of our democracy from 1999 to today. Then their lordship went further to say, in that case, that if revolution should occur in Nigeria, it may not because injustice was done, but because no civilized legal redress is available to the injured. As I today profound respect, there is no civilized remedy available to those who have been robbed of their fundamental right of vote or their civic obligation of voting for candidates of their choice. Once you manipulate yourself and you get a body called INEC, which is not independent in the real sense of the word, to announce you, then you are home and dry. Is that the kind of democracy we want? If revolution should occur in Nigeria, it may not because injustice was done, but because no civilized legal remedy is available to the injured. If and when that happens, our judiciary and politicians who impede justice must hold themselves accountable. The politicians may do as they like, and their party may abuse the system as they think fit. But let it be known that when the judiciary is suffocated and the poor and the lowly cannot look up to it for justice, the last hope of the common man would have been extinguished. Election grouses should not be resolved on the same principle as those governing civil complaints. Facts should take precedence over legal jargon. And I submit to us with profound respect that the argument that you must front load a witness statement of a supreme witness with profound respect, and I mean no insult, is a legal jargon that is rooted in illogicality that cannot be performed. And the law is that no one is expected to perform what is impossible. Why should we lay that roadblock in aid of political radicality? I charge us, the legal practitioners, the judiciary, the politicians, that we must and should avoid what we are doing currently. We all know there is no Nigerian politicians who won the election and who did not know that he did not win. They all know they did not win. Some people have good conscience. I read of a man in Kwara who declined his declaration because he did not win. Virtually all Nigerians. So let us not yet blame our security agencies. Are politicians themselves responsible in obeying law and order? Because they are the ones that went to import the security agencies to aid and abet the rigging of elections. In conclusion, therefore, It is therefore necessary, in the light of all that I have said above, for the Supreme Court to revisit some of its decisions that are rooted in technicality in electoral jurisprudence, and in particular on supreme witnesses and election petition cases. It is also necessary for all Nigerian courts and tribunals dealing with electoral disputes to avoid technicalities, because in the words of the Supreme Court, and this is what the Supreme Court says itself, and I'm using their words, technical justice in reality is not justice but a caricature of it. It is justice in inverted commas and not justice synonymous with principles of equity and fairness. Caricatures are not the best presentations or representations. Substantial justice, which is actual justice and concrete justice, is justice personified. It is secreted in the elbows of cordial and fair jurisprudence with a human face and understanding. It is excellent to follow it in our law. It pays to follow it, as it brings invaluable dividends in our legal system, anchored or predicated on the rule of law, which is the lifeblood of democracy. I thank you.